So here's something to think about. It says really important. We got one of those stars going on here. I talk about what are you thinking. And before we move into chapter 9, I wanted to mention a key point. So I go through all this quick summary of my personal journey. Most people are pretty amazed at the work I've done and can't imagine how I figured out how to build sand sculptures and faux rock projects. It was, of course, a process of learning, trial and error, success and failures. But I want to point this out. How do I react and think about other people's stories, their journeys, their failures, their successes is important to be aware of. Again, how we think of how we think is where we either help ourselves or hinder ourselves and others, including family and friends. So what are you thinking about my biography there, which I've been talking about? Are you like, well, I could never do that. That's out of my range. That blows me away. So again, what we're talking about here is what's our mind telling us? Am I just going to go ahead and say, well, I can never do that. I couldn't be like, Dave here doing all this stuff, and it's too insane. And if you're not impressed, that's okay too. If you're like, well, that's cool. Good for you. Yeah, I probably could do that. That's a great attitude. I'm glad you have that if you do. But if it looks pretty amazing and stuff, there's a lot of hard work that went into it. There's no question about that. And so it gets back to pilot training and how we're thinking about stuff, right? How are you thinking? So how are you assessing or judging me and what I've been able to do? And does it seem like it'd be a hard path to follow, and it doesn't seem like you could do the same thing? Well, it's surprising how much we can do, because when I just started my little photography business, it was like this big of a thing. I was a dental tech. That's all it was that I was doing, make a living. And I had a hobby, and I enjoyed taking photographs of sunsets and plants and beautiful rock formations, waterfalls in the Sierras and stuff. That's all it was. It was one little baby step. Okay, I like taking pictures. Well, then I just went, well, let's start it let's make a little business. Let's see if I can sell some pictures, because I like doing it anyway. Again, I love what I was doing, and make it into a little business. And so there was an entrepreneurial spark that just kind of fired off, and I started at that stage being an entrepreneur, owning my own business. It wasn't the only thing I did. Like I said, I was a dental tech, but I was making photography and taking pictures on the weekends and on my little vacation times out to backpack in these areas and stuff. So all that stuff was built on little risk adventures and stepping out and trying new things. And I went down and sat next to people that knew how to do what I wanted to learn. Literally, I learned how to be a dental tech by sitting down next to the senior technician in the lab, and he showed me how to do each part of it: model work, the trimming margins, how to set up the whole model work so you can make the teeth come together and you can learn how to articulate, and then grinding sound, sculpt down the little wax patterns, lost wax to make some of the stuff that we were doing back then, full gold crowns and stuff. But I just sat down next to him. So in a sense, I'm just wanting you to think about sitting down next to me and just walking through this journey with me and understanding, that's how I learned what I know how to do. I was sitting down next to someone. And it was the same thing with the sand sculpture. I sat down next to people. I couldn't carve anything. I could not do it. I was like, how did these people do that? But I kept doing it because I enjoyed the process of creativity, the camaraderie with my fellow sculptors and stuff. Same thing with faux rock work. I'd sit down next to, they got my friend in Arizona. I watched what he did. And then I practiced in the backyard and did things on my own. So I didn't have as much of a mentorship going on there because there just wasn't a lot there to be able to consume content, to consume more people to teach you. But the idea of learning from others is kind of like how this works. And there was no YouTube. There were no videos out there when I started faux rock work, or very little. I kind of had an antipathy towards computers and all the rest. I it's all too geeked out. I don't want to do that. So eventually I fell in line or whatever into the new world that we're living in, and began consuming that content and learning stuff all the time. But it started off with just me practicing, but originally sitting down next to people. So I'm just bringing this to your attention about thinking about how you assess other people's journeys and stories, because you hear biographies and stories of successful people, and you can be like, oh yeah, okay, another, well, good for you, you did a great job, that's wonderful. But it's not unusual, or it's pretty easy to go, I could never do that. I'm not that guy or that gal. I could never do that. And so I would ask that you just sort of suspend that limiting kind of thought process. Just look at it and go, you know what, maybe I could do that. Yeah, I could probably learn how to do that. And that's what I'm talking about here with this whole course. I want you to learn how I did that, and I'm trying to break it down into bite-sized pieces. All right? So that's pretty darn cool. So now go ahead and, if you've got my point, I think. So let's go ahead and take some time. Chapter 8, review, summarize what we've been talking about, answer the following questions. And these answers these little worksheets are really important. So take the time to do it, and you will benefit from it. So this is worksheet number 11. And there's an extra page of notes you can take. Print these things out. Print the worksheets out and this extra page if you need it. And then remember, use that little mini poster. Print it out. Put it somewhere, okay? All right, so let's move on to the next module, which would be module 5. And I think that would be probably chapter 8 or 9. Let's see, it did be chapter 9. All right. So let's move on to the next one, guys. And remember, take a rest wherever you need to. Stop the video, and that's fine too, okay? All right, moving on to the next module, and that'd be chapter 9, module 5. All right.